Hey everybody, I'm Jim Peterik. You might recognize me. We have a new feature that is going to be kind of a running feature. I hope you'll enjoy. It's called Guitars That Followed Me Home. And the inference here is I didn't buy any of these. They just followed me home. I don't know how they got here, but here they are. But I'd like to start with my very first electric guitar, okay? This is the Wandre. It says right there, Wandre. It's made in Italy by a guy named Wandre Davoli, and he was an eccentric designer who decided, I'm gonna make a guitar. And he kind of put all of his best technology into it, including an aluminum neck, fiberglass body, and this is actually a free-floating unit. This whole thing detaches from the body. Very advanced design, ugly as can be. I remember going downtown with my dad. My dad finally, I bugged him long enough where he finally says, okay, I'll buy you an electric guitar. I had this terrible, Harmony acoustic, and anyway, finally convinced him. So we went down, couldn't just go to Lyon and Healy or some legitimate place. We went to this place. His accordion player knew this guy on the second floor on Wabash Avenue, and he imported accordions, right? And he also imported this Italian guitar called the Wandre. And there was Gibson sitting there, but my dad was very impressed with the deal that he got on this, and the fact that this aluminum neck would never warp. Pretty cool. So I left the building not knowing which one my dad was going to get me, hoping it was going to be the Gibson Les Paul Jr. But of course, lo and behold, under the tree that morning at Christmas time, I open it up. It's the Wandre. Oh no! But I loved it. And there's these pictures of little Jimmy with his horn rim glasses, with the tape, playing this. The strings really high. If you learn on a Wandre, you can play any kind of guitar. So all my first days with the Ides of March, we were the Shondells at the time, was with the Wandre. Thank God I never sold it. It's now kind of a collector's piece, believe it or not. And some of them are even more bizarre looking than this one. So that's where it all started. I'm going to start with my most recent acquisition. I'm very proud of this one. This is a 1960 Gibson Les Paul Black Beauty Fretless Wonder. That's a mouthful. Les Paul started out as Goldtops in 1952. Every guitar was that very kind of luminescent gold, and they sold those for many, many years. And in 1955, they introduced this deluxe model, which was, ebony. It was one-piece solid mahogany. Solid mahogany, as opposed to mahogany and maple, which were the Goldtops. Some of this is technical. Some of you guitar geeks will love this stuff. Some of you other people will be bored, but live with it. Anyway, so originally the Black Beauty came out in '55. It had two single coil pickups. Follow me over here. This is the first Black Beauty. This came out in '56. You notice it has the black pickups. These are called single coils. This is a P90 single coil pickup. This is called the El Nico pickup, which has a special jazzy clarity to it. So this is my mid-condition 1956. Well, in 1958, they changed the pickup configuration. By this time, the humbucker pickup came out, and they installed 3 of these patent-applied 4 humbuckers. It's a quieter sound. These were single coil, and they buzzed in the lights and were kind of a pain, but they sounded great. This one, because there's 2 coils, it bucks the hum. One bucks the hum of the other coil and makes it a quiet pickup. So this one, I'll give an accolade to Stone Grove Music in LaGrange. They're my good friends over there. Paul Ciccarelli said, Jim, I got a guitar. A woman brought in a guitar. You might want to see it. Okay, yeah. Oh, this is trouble. Took me to the back room, opened the case. I already knew the case there was going to be something cool inside. It was this old black pebbled case like Gibson had back then. Open it up, and there's this guitar, and my jaw dropped. So, it's got a little buckle wear here. But the bottom line is this thing screams. I'm so lucky to have this guitar, and the woman that sold it, it was her brother's guitar who had passed away. She wanted to see it go to a good home. She was really pleased that someone that appreciated, someone that would play it. I've actually played this at the Bolingbrook show by the Ides of March a few months ago, a month and a half ago, and it just screamed. It was just one of the best guitars. So I love this guitar, 1960 Les Paul Custom. This happens to be a 1956. You notice the sparkly gold top finish, the 2 single coil pickups like you saw in the 56 Les Paul. You also notice, this is kind of rare. Well, first of all, some guy had a big honking buckle. I bought it like that. Unfortunately, that's a mar. But I'd rather have, I'm glad they didn't refinish it, because once you refinish a guitar, it loses a lot of its value. But what's unusual about this guitar is most of the backs of a gold top Les Paul are a much lighter color, and they call these dark backs. It's the walnut stain. It makes this one more valuable. I bought this about 3 years ago from Fretted Americana on the West Coast, David Brass, and I saw it and I plugged it in. It had the mojo, had to get it. This started life as a custom shop Les Paul. It had a typical cherry sunburst finish, not a bad looking guitar, but certainly not a standout. And it was hanging at Stone Grove Music, and I said, Paul, let me play that guitar. And I played it, and it was just an amazing guitar. Oh, this, by the way, is called a scratch pad. That's so you don't get that big honking belt buckle thing. So I installed that, and all you do is pull it off, and there it is, nice and clean. Plus you can flip it over and look like a peace neck. Pretty cool. So Paul has this guy on the West Coast named Marty Bell, B-E-L-L, and he does just these incredible finishes. A lot of them are sparkle finish, a lot of them are just every color of the rainbow, but he specializes in the sparkle. And I said, Paul, you got to get Marty to do an Eye of the Tiger Les Paul. And I didn't know what he was going to come up with. I just trusted Marty. It came back, and my jaw dropped. It's just absolutely brilliant. I usually start the set with this guitar, and people are going, holy crap, look at that. You heard of Tiger Maple. Well, this is really Tiger Maple, I'll tell you that. So I really enjoy this one. I reinstalled, I put new pickups in. I will never change pickups on a vintage instrument because again, first of all, the old pickups are amazing. Second of all, it devalues it. But if I have a new pickup, I'll usually go with the Gibson Burst Bucker 3. There's a 1, 2, and 3, and of course 3 is one louder, isn't it? So these are both Burst Bucker 3s, and that's my pick of choice for a Gibson. This is, well, it started life as a Barney Kessel, Gibson Barney Kessel jazz guitar. And it was previously owned by a gal named April Lawton, L-A-W-T-O-N. She was a member of a band called Ramatam. And they were like this amazing West Coast band. They came out in the early 70s, and April was kind of lauded as the female Hendrix. And she was just this amazing player. The band was great. They did 1 or 2 albums, and April was an artist as well, a painting artist. She had 2 guitars that she painted. One was a Les Paul, which I don't know where it is this day, but this was a Barney Kessel that she painted in these really cool Aztec motifs. She signed it. You won't be able to see this on film, but it says April Lawton 973. So 9th month of 1973, she painted this. She passed away about 5 years ago, tragically, and her estate had this guitar. Fretted Americana is where I picked this up. I got it for a real bargain. To me, it's worth, you can't put a price on something like this. It's just so cool. And it sounds great too. So the spirit of April Lawton lives on. In the early 80s, 83 to be exact, Fender wanted to shake it up a little bit and decided to put together a line called we call them the bowling ball Strats. Can't remember what they call them, but marble finish, bowling ball Strat. So There was only about 100 made in all different colorways. This, of course, is the black into red. Brunswick couldn't have done it better. They're great guitars. The other colorway that I really like is blue and yellow and white. It's very, very cool, but same swirl kind of thing. Unusual kind of guitar. Usually Fender Strats load from the back where the string goes through, and that's the classic Strat setup. This one, it loads from the bridge. I think Fender was trying to cut back at this point. They'd been taken over by CBS, and these big corporations, they're big corporations. They don't know about guitars. They just want to cheapen everything. I love the finish. The pickups sound great, but they should have kept the strings through the body. You saw the bowling ball Strat. This is the classic Strat. It's one of the first ones made in 1954. I always say it's not a guitar, it's a farm implement. It's just crude, This is serial number 557. One of the lowest serial numbers I've seen on a Stratocaster. As you notice, the strings, I have the guard plate off just to show you the insides. The springs indicate the vibrato. The strings are what makes the springs make the vibrato work. See the springs moving? Or, I don't know if you can see. Okay. Strings go through the body, up around, blah, blah, blah. Better sustain. You have that whole sustain through the body. Here's the real geek stuff, but for 2 years they had Bakelite knobs and Bakelite pickup covers. Bakelite was a kind of a 50s substance, kind of like a hard plastic. And if the knobs are intact, that makes your guitar rarer than if it wasn't. Most of these knobs crack. That's why they stopped using Bakelite, and they refitted them with plastic. Now these are in perfect condition, I'm glad to say. Now the pickup covers weren't so lucky, and I had to replace the pickup covers with plastic because they were totally cracked and destroyed. I got this guitar at DJ's Music. All of you locals will remember Danny Hagedorn and his dad had a shop on 31st Street. It was green, really ugly, but everybody went there from miles around because they had the best deals. They had the great instruments. And this one walked in the door. I don't know, some guy, and this guy named Rick Carlson, who was working there, called me. I said, I got this Strat, man. You got to see it. This is like 1978, 79. And I came in and I saw it in this old square, not square, they call it a thermometer case. Brown is the original case. It starts out narrow and then it goes out. It looks like a thermometer. So I knew guitars enough to know that the thermometer case is the real deal. This had to be a 54 or 55. It sounds like no other Strat I have. For those of you who don't know Strats, this is called the toggle switch. This is for the bridge pickup. That's that real twangy, trebly sound. In the middle, it's kind of that Robin Trower kind of mid-range sound. And this is the Stevie Ray Vaughan sound, the very full, bassy, but wiry sound. Now, in later guitars, Fender installed a 5-way switch. This is a 3-way switch. The 5-way switch also traps in 2 at a time, and then you trip it here 2 at a time. Before there was a 5-way switch, us guitar players had this trick. We thought we all discovered it. And we would jockey between the two and get this really wicked sound, real transparent, real kind of honky sound. And we thought we had discovered something, but it turns out all the guitar players were very meticulously, tripping it in the middle. Fender finally got smart and they actually created a 5-way switch and took all the challenge away from that middle position. One of the most versatile guitars ever in terms of an electric. On stage, I'm kind of noted for these guitars. They're made by Minarik, and I saw a picture of this in the Vintage Guitar magazine. I said, that's outrageous, that carving, and that's going to really, really stand out. But the finishes were kind of boring, and I bought one, and I said, man, this needs a new finish, So a local artist from Dwight, Illinois named Kat Clausen, I saw some of her work at the One of a Kind show at the Merchandise Mart, and I said, I want you to paint a guitar for me. And we talked about the concept. This one is called She Devil. which I named and she painted. It's just this evil woman, you know, just really evil. And then on the back, you get a little surprise because, well, you see the back of the evil woman, which is very cool and very unique. Her colors are just off the chain, just like the ultimate stage guitar. Jim Peterik 07 cat. So she signed it. Wow. This is a cool one. I love this. I actually had these made to sell. No. I'm not selling. I got too attached to these wonderful guitars. I love guitars when they're dead mint. You know, this is a 1957 Les Paul Special. You saw the Les Paul Custom. You saw the Les Paul Goldtop, which is called the Standard. That's the other name for the Goldtop. This is called the Les Paul Special TV model. Why TV? Various theories. One theory was that it was yellow and it showed up well on TV. Wrong theory. The real theory is this was the color of many of the televisions back, the cabinets back in the 50s. That real ugly, mustardy blonde finish. Hence the Les Paul Special TV model. As you notice, two P90 pickups. This one dead mint. I got it from, again, I'm going to think of it. Fretted Americana on the West Coast, David Brass and Caroline. This is serial number 77414. The 7 indicates the year, 1957, and then just the run of the production line. Again, a very unique sounding instrument. They just scream. I've seen these in the hands of, well, the guy in Green Day, you know, loves these guitars. This one, a real classic. This is the Gibson ES-345. There was 3 guitars in the Gibson line that all look pretty similar to the untrained eye. There were the 335, which was the kind of the unadorned model, which I'll show you here. No, not the bowling ball Strat. Okay, double fisted. This is the 335. You notice it has the, what they call the dot neck, the dots on the fretboard, very plain, very simple. And then you got the 345, which is an upgrade, probably another $100. Doesn't mean it's better, just means it's fancier, gold hardware, and it's stereo, which is really a mixed blessing. Believe me, most guys, they defeat the stereo thing and have it wired mono. But what Gibson intended is for this pickup to be able to put through one amp and this pickup through another amp, so you get this spread. Cool idea, but you know, not real practical. Added to that is this Veritone switch. It has about 6 or 7 tone variations, and it goes everywhere from ugly to uglier to ugliest. It has all these very filtered tones like the Beatles use, like on Revolution. Really cool. When I say ugly, it's good ugly, you know. This is a Sunburst, obviously. And then for another $100, you get the 355. So that last one was a 345. First one was a 335. This is a 355. And this is even fancier still. And custom made. They put that to cover the holes so they could put a vibrato, a Bigsby vibrato on it. So Bigsby was the king of the vibrato mechanism. Gives that Hawaiian guitar sound. It's not in tune. It was in tune when I bought it. I just don't understand. But it's a great, great guitar. God, I love this guitar. This is one of my passions. Fender Jazzmaster, okay? This was actually my first guitar was a Jazzmaster. That's in the truck, so I don't have that here because I use that every odd show I play. You wouldn't listen with the Sunburst Jazzmaster. But this one is actually the most valuable Jazzmaster I've ever seen. First of all, it's a custom color. There was always an upcharge for the Duco custom colors. This one is called Lake Placid Blue. They had these wonderful names on them. They had Surf Green, Lake Placid Blue, Candy Apple Red, Shoreline Gold. I used to pore over the Fender catalogs and just memorize the colors, smell the pages. Sick, really sick. And what's even better about this one, matching headstock. That's another add hundreds of dollars more as in terms of the vintage market. If the headstock paint matches the color of the body, usually it's just natural finish, just maple. So add some more value. Now, this is the real piece de resistance. The hardware is gold. Very, very rare. So you've got the custom color, matching headstock, gold hardware. This is a 1965. This guitar is worth 25 grand. And look at the condition. Love this guitar. Got it at I missed it at a guitar show. I almost bought it at the big Midwest guitar show. Kicked myself for not buying it. Then I found a guy in Saugatuck who had bought it. I bought it back from him. So I got it after all. Oh, okay. Just to show there are newer guitars that are collectible. It's not just the old ones. I was walking through the Midwest Guitar Show, and there's this one dealer, and he had this guitar I'd never seen before. This is about 1997, 2001, I think, 2001. I go, what the heck is that? Well, it's a Gibson, and as I studied it, I realized this is a custom instrument. And I asked him I asked the proprietor, what's the story on this? He said, well, it was an employee guitar. An employee guitar is someone that worked at Gibson, designed a guitar for himself, basically. And it's a young guy, 22 years old, who decided to put his two favorite guitars together in one guitar. He used the V shape from the Flying V, and he used the SG horns from the Gibson SG. So SG, Flying V. If I said that wrong, that's what it is. Flying V, SG. Unusual features, strings through the back, just like a Strat, just like the original Flying V, strings through the back. Widow's Peak, which is very, very cool. They only did that on a few guitars where they put black on the back of the headstock and it comes to a widow's peak. The color, they call it, it's not Lake Placid blue. It's actually kind of a green. I gotta look up what that color is. If anybody knows what this color is called, let me know. But the thing looks like it's heavy, it weighs like nothing. It's made of very, very light ash. And there's really a controversy among guitar players. Is it better to have a light guitar or a heavy guitar? Well, from my back's point of view, it's better to have a light guitar. I've got, anyway. But what sustains better? I'll tell you, there's really no clear answer. I've had light guitars like this one that sustain forever, just like Spinal Tap. You could go off to the pub and it'd still be sustaining. But I have some heavy guitars that are just like rocks and weigh 12 pounds and they sustain amazing. So it's really not the weight, it's just the way the guitar was put together on that given day. But like I said, I bought this for $3,500. I beat out Rick Nelson, not Rick Nelson, let me say it again, Rick Nielsen, big difference, of Cheap Trick. He's another guy like me. He probably has, maybe more guitars than I have. So we're both, very sick men. But I got to the booth that was selling this before he did. And he comes around and sees it. He goes, I wanted that guitar. That guy promised me. I said, well, the money's, and he was laughing. But we have this friendly competition of who can get the most cool guitars, before we die. So that's a cool one. I keep saying Axe in Hand. Axe in Hand used to be this amazing vintage guitar store in DeKalb, right in the middle of nowhere. It was this guy's house named Larry Hendricks. People who came from far and wide, you would see Jeff Beck there on a given day, Jimmy Page, all these icons. So, I didn't never run into one, but I was always there. And me and Frankie Sullivan, we were both, guitar-holics back in the early Survivor days. First time I went to Axe in Hand, this was in the window. And it's a Fender Electric XII. And little be known to a lot of people, this is the actual model that Jimmy Page used on Stairway to Heaven. Now when he went on the road, by that time he had bought a double neck so he could do the 6-string part and the 12-string part. So this is very much like the the one that Jimmy Page used on stage. His was cherry red. This is obviously cream. This is the 6-string. This is the 12-string. So he could switch between the power parts and the leads and the very ethereal intro pieces on one guitar, and you switch between the necks. The actual guitar he used on the record of Stairway to Heaven was one much like this. And this is actually, to me, the best electric 12-string on the market. They don't make these anymore, but the unusual thing about this Fender 12, it's obviously like a one-off, like a NAMM show guitar, and you can see the finish through the cream finish. You can see the grain. That's very rare. I've never seen another one like it. If anyone has one, I would be very, very surprised. Also, it's a patent pending logo, patent pending, and even more telling, it's an L serial number. Every 12-string Fender you see is going to have an F plate. An F plate is a plate just like this that holds the neck on and has an F on it. Now the F is emblematic of the days that CBS bought the company over and the company went downhill in many ways. The fact that this one doesn't have an F proves to me that it's one of the very first Fender 12 strings ever made. And it's got an L serial number. All the guitars that start with the serial number L, as in Laura, were made prior to 1965. I've never seen another Fender 12 string with an L serial number. Added to that, if that's not enough, it's got a mother toilet seat pickguard. Never saw another one. Literally, if anybody sees anything like this, let me know. It's a very rare and special bird. This is another what I call a future collectible. Whenever Gibson reissues something or Fender reissues something and does a replica, there's a good chance they're only going to make like 50 of them, or 100 at the most. And when I found out they were putting out an Alvin Lee Gibson 335, I said I have to have one. So if you see Woodstock, you see Alvin Lee doing Going Home and just ripping up the fretboard. And this is the famous song that after the song he picks up a watermelon, puts it on his shoulder, and carries it off the stage. I'll never forget the watermelon. He's famous for it. But he's also famous for this guitar with the exact decals that Gibson either found or had reproduced. Also, it indicates that third pickup that Alvin Lee put on for different tonal variations. And it's like the ultimate hippie guitar, and it's Woodstock. So this guitar will probably be worth some bread someday, but I bought it just because I love Alvin Lee and I love his memory. So I rock this out. Well, thanks so much, everybody. I hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for next month's edition of Jim Peterik and Guitars That Followed Me Home.